As a programmer, technical PM, and general tech worker, I think there is a shared desire among all software developers, or even just remote workers, to be quote-unquote a digital nomad, traveling to different countries, working remotely, and just generally being on the move while still being fully employed. Whether this is doable or even fun is entirely a different debate, but I feel like all of us can picture ourselves waking up in Paris or London or Tokyo, working the day, then exploring the city afterwards. Now, obviously that's somewhat romanticized, but that's where this video comes in. So I recently traveled to Japan, and although I did more sightseeing than working, I feel like Japan is one of those countries that people think about as a potential spot to visit, work remotely from, or even move to for a more prolonged period of time. So here are my first impressions of Japan, as a tech worker who has the opportunity to work remotely. As a caveat, my first impressions are obviously just first impressions and limited to my short time and experience in Japan. I visited Tokyo for about 5 days and Kyoto for about 3, so my experiences are mostly limited to those large cities. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, but more on that in a bit. So I arrived Sunday morning in Narita Airport and took the train into Tokyo, where my hotel was in Akasaka District. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I hope so. I then spent Sunday and Monday exploring Tokyo, primarily Shinjuku and Shibuya, and then took the bullet train, or Shinkansen, from Tokyo to Kyoto on Tuesday. I spent the rest of Tuesday and Wednesday and most of Thursday in Kyoto until I took the bullet train back to Tokyo, where I spent Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday, where I explored Harajuku, Akihabara, Ginza, and some other parts in between. So my immediate impressions of Japan. First, it is extremely clean. It's actually crazy. There are roughly 13 million people living in Tokyo, and it's cleaner than probably every major US city I've been to. In a similar vein, everything is also very well maintained and manicured. The roads have almost no potholes, all the paint on the roads is clear and readable. I didn't really notice any plant overgrowth, and even the public bathrooms are extremely clean and well maintained. Honestly, there are some public restrooms in Seattle that should probably be condemned. But the cleanliness thing is kind of confusing, because another major thing I noticed and heard about before visiting is the complete lack of trash cans. There are literally no trash cans, but it's amazing that there is still almost no litter. Like, finding a trash can is a very rare sight. Most of the time, I was hauling around wrappers and empty water bottles basically the whole day until I found the sacred garbage bins. Tokyo and Kyoto also both felt incredibly safe. Even walking at night in alleys, at no point did I really feel unsafe. And I think that is generally a shared sentiment. And Tokyo boasts a very low crime rate compared to most other large cities. Public transit is also a major plus in Tokyo. There is pretty much a subway that goes to anywhere you need to go, and they come basically every 5 to 10 minutes. And again, they are remarkably clean and safe. Also, train stations seem to act almost as hubs to the various major districts, with a lot of the major buildings kind of circling the station. Now, my next impression is regarding fashion. In Japan, at least in Tokyo and Kyoto, people dress super well, like incredibly well. They'll have multiple layers on, everything is like perfectly matching, and it'll be like a 1 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon or something. I feel like I dress pretty well day to day, but being there definitely made me want to step up my fashion game a bit. For the remote workers, I heard about this as well before going to Japan. There is Wi-Fi all over the place, in hotels, in trains, coffee shops, and even on the street in a lot of places. Now, granted, you should be careful on these networks, but the option is still nice to have. The next thing I noticed is that there are literally malls everywhere. Walk out of the train station, mall. Walk out of a park, mall. Just got out of a restaurant, mall. Looking for a bathroom, mall. I'm honestly amazed about how many malls and stores there are in Tokyo. Like, I literally don't know how these places even stay in business when there's just so much competition. It felt like every building I went into was like 10 stories, and there were stores on every floor, and there were 20 of the same building on the same block. If you're like a completionist and try to hit everything when visiting somewhere, you will definitely struggle in Tokyo. Tying in with all of the malls is all of the choices. It felt like there were two main types of stores: hyper-specific and stores that literally sell everything from snacks to electronics. And I often felt like I got decision paralysis because for everything I wanted to buy, there was like 100 different options and variants. In the US, I felt like there are a bunch of options, but it definitely felt like there were more, at least in Tokyo. A great example of this is Japanese convenience stores, the main ones being 7-Eleven, Lawson's, and Family Mart. And let me tell you, Japanese convenience stores are absolutely amazing. They have actually good food and a ton of options, but again, sometimes too many options. In terms of prices, the US dollar to Japanese yen exchange rate was pretty favorable when I went. 1 USD was worth about 145 yen, so the prices were actually way cheaper than what I've been used to in Seattle. I could get a pretty decent meal for less than 2,000 yen, which would be about $15, and I actually got a lot of my holiday shopping done while I was there, just because the prices on a lot of things were just super reasonable. Lastly, I noticed at least everyone I interacted with was extremely respectful. I don't really speak much Japanese, but pretty much everyone I talked to treated me with immense kindness. And when walking around, you just get this general sense of respect amongst everyone. The police would bow as you walk by, the construction workers would bow and gesture to walk around a construction zone, cashiers and shop owners would thank you several times while checking out. Like, it was so nice, especially as a foreign visitor who doesn't really speak the language, to be treated honestly better than a lot of situations in the States. It seems that a lot of people take pride in their customer service, and it really shows. And I think it goes back to the mutual respect idea. I didn't see really any Karens yelling about a wrong order, so it's easier to be respectful and kind when the customers are equally as respectful and kind. And if you're thinking about becoming a digital nomad, web design could be a great option with today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and just generally learn new and helpful skills. Throughout my software engineering and tech career, I have mostly stayed on the back-end side of things, and I've always been jealous of the front-end engineers and web designers that could crank out beautiful websites. That's why I started Veiko Shivili's course on web design and development using Figma and Webflow. Skillshare is ad-free, so you can stay in the zone while you're exploring new skills. New premium classes are launched each week, so there's always something new to discover. Now is the perfect time to invest in yourself. With a Skillshare membership, you can engage in your hobbies and passions kind of all year long. It's the perfect way to start and finally keep your resolutions for the new year. The first 1,000 people to use the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Thank you to Skillshare for supporting the channel. So overall, I will definitely miss Japan, and I do plan on visiting again for sure. I visited a lot of the major cities in the West, and I can confidently say that Tokyo is definitely in the top 3 places, and possibly the top. Granted, this was my first trip to Asia. I often was walking around and was just completely captivated by the city. Sometimes it felt like I was on a different planet, like Coruscant from Star Wars or something. If you're thinking about visiting or working remotely for a bit, I highly recommend Tokyo. Definitely a 10 out of 10 city, and it literally seemed like the city of the future. Hey, thanks for watching. Sorry I don't have my usual setup. I'm just visiting some family for the holidays. Thank you to Skillshare for supporting the channel again, and check out that link in the description below. The first 1,000 people to do that will get 1 month free of Skillshare. If you're new to the channel, I usually make tech, computer science, game development, some general advice videos here and there, so if any of that does sound interesting, consider subscribing. Like this video to help your boy out with the YouTube algorithm. My name is Michael. We do bad British accents at the end of every video. Check out one of my past videos and my past self would thank you dearly. Check out one of my future videos and my future self would also thank you dearly. Thanks so much. That's all for me, and hopefully I see you in another one. Bye-bye.